Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm trying to turn my camera on. There we go. That's better.
Thanks for willing to do this.
Sure. How's your day so far?
Good. What about you?
Hanging in there. So far, so good. Yeah.
So I could just jump around then. It's not only focused on Fire Emblem.
Yeah, that's whatever you want to talk about.
So starting from the beginning, I know you moved to LA right after high school and you worked with Oz Butler.
I did. Yeah. That was a while ago. Um, I was really lucky. The first two people that I studied with, one was a Disney voiceover legend named Jenny Tyler, and the other was Dawes Butler, as you mentioned, who was, of course, Hanna-Barbera, Yogi Bear, Huckleberry Hound, Quick Draw McGraw,
Mhm.
a lot of those other classic characters. Yeah. So I would like to say it's been smooth going ever since, but it took a little while. It took a little while for it to become what I did solely and not have to have a day job.
So was it always voiceover that you had more affinity to pursue? Did you ever want to try live action?
I did. Voiceover was what brought me down to LA. It's what I've wanted to do ever since I was about 6 years old. I've wanted to hear my voice coming out of cartoon characters. Uh, but on the journey as well, I've done other things. I've done, little bit parts on TV shows and some really bad movies. Um, I ran a Shakespeare company here in Los Angeles for about 5 years. Uh, no money in it at all.
Mhm.
So we kind of did it for as long as we could, and then ran out of steam. So
Yeah.
yeah, my career has been all over the place, but I would say for the last 20 years, it's been pretty much focused on voiceover. That being said, there's more and more motion capture that becomes available, and I have a really, really great time doing that. I've done some really fun projects.
Do you have a special story of how you got into SAG?
Let's see. I was doing bit parts on The Young and the Restless
Okay.
back in the day. I got to say such memorable lines as "Yes, Mr. Abbott," and that was, I believe, that was what propelled me into being able to get into SAG. Now, I originally started when I moved down to Southern California. My very first job was working on the Universal Studios tour. They used to have an old school Battlestar Galactica show, although at the time it wasn't old school. It was the only school. And so I got into a performers union called AGVA, and so that was my first union. It was AGVA, then AFTRA, then SAG.
Mhm.
So kind of moving up the ladder.
And I know that you got into the anime scene in LA back when they didn't really even know what it was.
Very much so. This was back in, ooh, wow. I can't remember the year specifically. But I was working on Robotech and Captain Harlock,
Right.
and I was on the night crew, which meant I showed up at about 6 o'clock in the evening and worked till about 2 o'clock in the morning. And somewhere around 11 o'clock or midnight, I'd start to get pretty sleepy. So I didn't have any problems with like falling asleep in the stairwell or in the waiting room, and they would just come and like kind of nudge me and go, "Come on, time to go do your lines. Time to go be third guy from the left who screams when he blows up."
Mhm.
So yeah, didn't have any characters with names back then, but I do now, luckily.
Do you remember who from that group got you into that circle?
That was my first voiceover coach, Jenny Tyler. I don't remember how she was connected with it, but she just knew people at all the various studios around town, probably because she'd been in the business forever, and she was able to connect me with a number of my first jobs.
Mhm.
So yeah, she hooked me up with Harmony Gold was the company, and it turns out that I worked with a lot of people who I now continue to work with, like Richard Epcar and Paul St. Peter and Steve Kramer and Wendy Lee, and who were all characters with names on that show, um, as opposed to myself, who just screamed when he blew up.
Mhm. Well, I did notice that there was a gap between that time and then you didn't seem to work in anime more prevalently until like the early 2000s.
Pretty much so. Pretty much so. Yeah. The I sort of skipped the '90s, so I skipped the that golden era, the Cowboy Bebop era. I wasn't involved in that, and yeah, came back in the early 2000s and started working with people like Kirk Thornton and all the gang at Bang Zoom, and I'm very grateful to friends like Karen Strassman, who opened a number of doors, and it's been my absolute pleasure to work with since then.
Was it easy for you to take the dubbing as you got to do it more often?
Surprisingly, it was. Yeah. By the time I started working on Bang Zoom projects specifically in the early 2000s. I'd done it for a while, hit or miss. I'd been doing it well, since Robotech and Captain Harlock. So even though I hadn't been doing it regularly, I'd done it enough to know what I was doing. So by the time I sort of showed back up and met people like Kirk Thornton and Lex Lang, um, it was an easy fit. Um, it was nice when I would go to the auditions and they would say, "Who are you? Where have you been? Why haven't I worked with you before?" Very, very flattering for the ego.
I know one of your first major characters would have been Tenchi in the Tenchi Muyo GXP series.
Oh yes, yes, it was. That was a lot of fun. It was such a legacy show and a legacy character. So I was really, really thrilled to be able to come in, even if it was only for like an episode and a half, as I recall.
Mhm.
Um, to still get to be able to do that character. Whenever you can be a character whose name is in the title, it's a good thing.
And then there were series like I don't know if it stands out much, but 12 Kingdoms and Gungrave and
Very much so. I remember them all. I couldn't. I probably wouldn't be able to do the voices of the characters that I did, but 12 Kingdoms. I remember. I remember very well. I was used to playing kind of snarky douchebag villains,
right.
and so to get to play, I don't remember if he was the king or the emperor. Anyway, royalty and a decent guy, kind of a fatherly figure. Um, so my first thought was, wait a minute, he's not a snarky douchebag. I don't think I can do sincerity, but it turned out a beautiful, beautiful series too. Yeah, I was really thrilled to be part of that.
Do you remember what your first major video game would have been?
Ooh, major video game. No, but I remember the first video game period that I did. It was back in, probably 1984 or 85, and it was for a brand new platform called CD-ROM, and it was a game called Marvin the Moose.
Okay.
Um, I made $50 and I thought I had arrived. It's like, yes, baby. I'm doing voices for a living. I just made $50. Thank you again to Jenny Tyler for plugging me into that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I know not too long after the series I mentioned, it would have been when Bleach got started.
Yes. Yes. I don't know how soon I came along. after Bleach started. I don't think I was in it from the very beginning. Again, sadistic, psychopathic villains, bad guys who would come in for an episode or maybe a 3-episode arc kind of thing. And I wanted to play a good guy so bad. Not just because, well, they're good guys, but they stick around longer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired of getting killed at the end of a half an hour, but that has to happen. There's a place for the bad guys too.
Well, one thing I think is very interesting with Bleach is that when you played Wonder Weiss, and he doesn't really talk, he just has those like monosyllabic noises.
Yes, go figure that he would be a standout character, and characters that just say their names. I've done a few of those. But he's one of the ones when people say, well, so who were you on Bleach? I'm like, well, I was Wonder Weiss. And they're like, no way. Everybody remembers Wonder Weiss.
Yeah.
So I think more because of the character than because of my characterization of him. But still, nice to be associated with a character people remember.
What do you think? That does make me think to ask, what do you think the case is where you've had to alter your voice the most for anything?
Ooh, wow. God, I do that so often. I do that on almost every project that I'm on. I get hired to be what's called utility a lot. And so they bring me in so that I can be 7 or 12 or 17 different characters that can hopefully not sound like each other. So it happens a lot. I don't remember the first time that it did. But it still goes on to this day.
Well, I know one significant one to a degree is Rufus in the Street Fighter stuff.
Oh, Rufus. Yes. Rufus was fun, and Rufus was one of those voices that didn't sit easily in the throat. He just was there's a lot of gravel with him, and he just sits there, and so you do a recording session like this for 4 hours, and you wind up you sound like this at the end of it. So Rufus was one of those characters that I always made sure I booked on a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had the entire weekend to rest up before I went back to work on Monday on whatever it was I was doing that probably didn't want me to sound like a gravelly large guy from the old neighborhood.
Have you gotten many cases to perform with yourself yet?
You mean opposite myself? Yeah, I'm doing a show right now. It's on the Disney Channel overseas, and I think you can find it on YouTube in this country. It's called Gus the Itsy Bitsy Knight. And I play the king and I play Grandpa Merlin, and we have a number of conversations together. So luckily they don't sound like one another. At least I hope they don't sound like one another.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's happened a lot. I was in a show, 10, 12 years ago, called Code Geass.
Right. Yeah.
And I was not any main characters, but in season 2, I am so many of the background characters, some of whom are having conversations with each other, that they had to stop using me after a while because even though, again, I wasn't any of the main characters, I was starting to be a little too recognizable.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the struggle is real.
Do you think you have a personal preference on working on more dramatic projects opposed to lighter?
I'm a big fan of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
I am. I like delivering funny lines in funny voices. That was really what drew me to voiceover in the first place. So I would have to say that I like comedy and being silly. I do a number of silly villains too, and so I think that's lent itself to what I can bring to a role. I mean, even like the Joker when I was Lego Joker, he was very silly. He was very silly, and he wasn't very threatening because he's Lego. It's not like we're doing Mark Hamill from the Batman TV series or animated series. So much gentler, and he didn't really make things blow up. He just threw pies.
Mm-hmm. Well, in terms of your major or like long running characters that you've gotten to do in anime and anime games, who do you think that you relate the most to?
Relate the most? I don't know. I can say that in anime, I have two favorite roles that I've gotten to do, and oddly enough, neither of them were very comedic. One was Kitan in Gurren Lagann,
Mm-hmm.
and the other one was Kite in Hunter x Hunter.
Right.
And Kite is he's downright stoic. I think if he cracked a smile or told a joke, his face would fall off. Kitan's a little he's a little more devil may care, but still a fairly serious guy, when it comes down to it. So yeah, I would say that those two, in terms of anime, those have been my favorites. But it's like they say, it's like picking a favorite child. They're all so much fun for one reason or another. Whichever role I am doing at the moment, that's my favorite one.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what's going through my head right now. It's like, I love doing this. I am so lucky that I get to do this, because it pretty much is the best job ever. But I'm very biased.
Did the fan response to Kite surprise you?
Very, very much so. Yes. Because I mean, he's only around he's got his arc in the show, and I know that I responded to him, and oddly enough, they had originally approached me about 2 years earlier to do the role, and I wasn't familiar with how things were laying out in Hunter x Hunter, and so I auditioned for the role, and then the next thing I know, I didn't hear anything, and it was crickets forever, and I forgot about it. And then the next thing I know, I'm getting an email asking me what my availability is to come in and do Kite, and I'm like, oh, I guess I got it. Great. And I did. I just had a wonderful time, and got to work with my wife. She's the Chimera Ant Queen.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kite meets his fate like you do.
Do you still have much affinity with Cayenne from Vampire Knight? That's probably my favorite role of yours.
He was really fun to do. Again, I spent a lot of time working on that show, and it was a lot of fun. I auditioned for it, and they cast me, and they said, "Oh, you're gonna have a lot of fun with him. He's a badass." And I'm like, "Oh, great, yeah, he's a badass." And for I don't know how many episodes, he wore a shawl and sipped tea.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, the badass is going to start, right? Anytime. And more shawl and more tea. And then boom, all of a sudden, the badassery starts, which I had a really good time with. And then it was back to wearing the shawl and drinking tea.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really fun. It was really, really fun. Loved working on that show with my buddy Ezra Weiss, who I just think is terrific. So anytime he and I can be on the same project, it's a lot of fun.
What do you think on the opposite side of that? What do you think the darkest headspace you've had to go for voiceover is?
I just did it, and I can't talk about it. And it's not just because it's the most recent thing I've done that it comes to mind. It's like, yeah, that was pretty. That was, yeah, pretty heavy and pretty dark. I know there are other things, and I'm sure it will come up as we continue to talk. So let's keep going, and then I will interrupt when I go, oh yes, there was this. So,
Okay.
which I'm sure will come up.
Well, you have a, I don't think it's too major in that regard, but you have a pretty cool villain in the Saint Seiya series.
Oh, right. Scorpio.
Yep.
Yes, that was a lot of fun. That was a great project to work on too. Todd Haberkorn directed that one, and anytime I get to work with Todd, it's a really good time. And it was another one of those shows where I didn't know what to expect coming into it. Um, and so I would get to see it as the day would unfold, and I would just think to myself, "Wow, this is a pretty cool show. I really like this." So it's always nice when you can like the projects that you're in, and
Mhm.
it doesn't always happen, but I love the work. But when you do watch something after you've completed it, again, much like Gurren Lagann, and go, "Wow, this is really good. I am so thrilled to be a part of this." You know? And then you get to meet the fans, and I get to hear the impact that the work that I put into a character or a show has had on people, which I never expect, because I'm always just sitting in a room by myself, um, doing lines, uh, not even with any of the other characters for the most part. And
Mhm.
then you meet someone and they say, "Oh, I really loved your work on, fill in the blank," or "It really meant so much to me at this time in my life." And I remember the first time that I heard somebody say that, and I was like, "Wait, what?" There are actually people out in the world who like this and who enjoy the work that I do. I was so touched, um, and very taken aback, because again, you know, when we do our jobs, we're sitting in a booth by ourselves. We're lucky if we go into a studio these days. So much of it is done at home. Um, so you're really isolated, really removed from the production, let alone the fans who are going to watch it when it airs. So it's nice to finally close that gap and to meet the people.
Has there been many instances where you've watched anime that you had a major role in?
Not as many as I should. It's still I'm still nervous to watch stuff that I've done or that I'm in. It took me the longest time even to get used to the sound of my own voice. Part of the reason that I sort of came onto the scene as a utility player was because it was just more comfortable for me to change up my voice. It was probably 10 years ago that I really worked at getting used to the sound of my own voice coming out of a cartoon character, because it just sounded wrong. I'm like, wait, no, I sound like that. He doesn't sound like that. Let me put on a character so that this character can sound the way I think he should. But there are just times where your normal speaking voice, as they say, is what the character calls for.
Mhm. Since you got to do a lot with like your character in Durarara, are you a fan of that show at all?
Oh yeah. Okay. Now that was fun. Boy, talk about a cast. Boy, yeah, I was so thrilled to be on that project. Um, and he was a character who I don't know. He kind of straddled the line. He was the antagonist to our protagonist, but I don't know that I'd really call him the villain. Oh, wait a second. I'm thinking I had two characters in that.
Right.
I had Dennis, and then I had the cop,
Kinosuke.
the Inosuke. That's right, right. And so I immediately think of Kinosuke because he's the more colorful character. But no, Dennis was, yes, that was very uncomfortable for me to play Dennis. I have to say, because Dennis sounds like me. Slight affectation here or there, but for the most part, Dennis sounds like me. And I heard it back. I thought, oh, that's just weird. That just sounds weird.
Yeah.
He sounds like me, but he doesn't look like me at all.
What about the your roles in the Gundam series?
The Gundam series, playing Bright Noah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I love stepping in and doing new versions of legacy characters. And he was a fan favorite. Little did I know to what degree. Thank you, the Bright Noah slap. I did a little research, watched some of the earlier incarnations of him, and read about what the internet liked about him, and I just thought, wow, this is a really great character for me to be able to step into. And he's vocally, he's a little different from me. He's a little more military. He's a little more straight laced. So that gives me something to latch on to character wise. So it wasn't quite as strange to hear my voice coming out of him. Besides, he's a good looking guy, and I'm like, wow, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, he's handsome.
What was your reaction then when you got your role in the Final Fantasy games?
Well, here's the thing. Um, I've been doing the Emperor forever now, and I I had no idea what the public reaction was going to be when he came out the first time, and people's remarks were really complimentary, and I was very taken aback. Especially people were saying like, "Oh, that's really cool. You sound like David Bowie," or whoever else I sounded like to folks, and it felt really good because I don't know if you're aware or not, but the internet can be sometimes a not very nice place, and when we're voicing characters, you're always taking a chance that our interpretation of the character, even if we're doing it well, of course we're doing it because the client has signed off, the animation company has signed off on us. But if we don't wind up sounding like what the way someone might expect, they can be not happy about it. And so when reaction to the Emperor was so universally positive, I was thrilled. And then I've gotten to do him multiple times since then. So um, there's it's all win when it comes to that project and my participation in it. I love it. I hope that I get to do that character for the foreseeable future. That being said, I have no idea if there are any more projects, so don't quote me on that.
Well, talking on like legacy franchises too, it's really cool that you've gotten to at least be small parts in Pokemon and Sailor Moon.
It is. It is. Yeah, I mean, getting to do Mewtwo in Detective Pikachu was really a blast. Because Pokemon isn't. I'm not the most well versed in the Pokemon universe, but I think Mewtwo is pretty cool. And so to get to be his voice was really a thrill. And again, here's crossing fingers that well, I'll get to do it again in some other project.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Do you do you also have much attachment to because I think one of the things that made me instill your voice in my head was the Dynasty and Samurai Warriors games when I first started.
Those were so fun. Yeah, playing Nobunaga Oda
Yep.
was great, and I got to do him for a number of games. They just kept coming back and coming back and coming back, and I thought, wow, I'm having a really good time with these. I'm just going to ride this for as long as it goes, and then I would do a little reading and learn about who Nobunaga Oda was in real life, and sometimes try to bring a little characterization uh, forward for that. But once a character voice is established, a lot of times the director will say, "Why are you doing? Don't do that differently. Just do it the way you've done it before." So I would kind of go, "Well, okay, we've established who he is and what he sounds like." So yeah, but that was a lot of fun. There hasn't been one that hasn't been fun. Even doing Rufus for Street Fighter, even though it trashed my voice, I still had a great time doing it. And he's such a handsome devil. He really is, with such a fashion sense. I don't know. If only I could dress that way in real life, I would, but I don't think I could pull it off. Only he can.
Yeah. Well, what was the first Fire Emblem property that you became involved with?
I want to say Heroes,
Okay.
and I've done so many different characters for them. I think I counted. I've either done 7 or 9. Reinhardt and Legion and
Seth.
Seth, franchise that's been going for a long time, and I wasn't expecting it to go past. The first one. You never do, and that's no statement or judgment on a particular project. It's just that we as actors, we come in, we do the job, and we go, oh well, that was a lot of fun. It will never happen again. Because otherwise we wind up getting disappointed. And that way, when the next project comes up where they need your character to return or they want you to come back and do additional characters, you can go, wow, this is great. I didn't dare dream that this could come back. And Fire Emblem was one of those, where it was really fun, and response to the game and the characters was phenomenal, on beyond what I would have expected. And so to get to have done recurring characters and recurring games over the years has just been a blast.
Do you remember how you would do the different vocal placements and like vocal tones for each one of them? The main ones?
I think one of the more recent ones I did, oh God, and I can see his face, but I'm blanking on the name.
Yarne, the bunny.
Oh, don't mess with the bunny. Right. He was the first one I did. He was the first character that I did back in the day, because I remember saying, "Don't mess with the bunny," and it's like, really, you want him to sound like he's a little bit like this? Don't mess with whatever they want. But no, there's a character that I just did, and he's got two personalities. He's very regal, and then he's more demonic. We're gonna get letters on this one. Well, I'm dating myself. Letters. We're gonna get emails on this. We're gonna get Instagram instant messages. What we try to do when I've got multiple characters, if I've got 2 or 3 different characters, is we will do all of one character and then go back and then do the second character and then go back and do the third one, which oftentimes does have me talking to myself. But I don't have to flip-flop back and forth and make my brain explode, luckily. Sometimes my brain still does explode, but for different reasons.
I think the character you were thinking of was because you played the main villain in Fire Emblem Three Hopes and Thales.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah.
Fire Emblem characters for 200 goes to you. Thank you, Alex.
Well, then of course, some of the characters in Heroes like Seth have had multiple skins, like holiday skins too.
Right. And sometimes they bring me back to do some DLC for characters when they get those. But I never really know while we're in the midst of recording the game. Sometimes there will be character art that I get to see, and they'll explain to me what it is we're doing, but it doesn't always happen. So I just try to focus on the acting, because surprisingly enough, there is a decent amount of acting that goes on with voice acting. You need to do the same kind of exercises that you do when you're doing on camera. You need to know who you're talking to, why you're saying it, that kind of thing. And that keeps you grounded in the booth and gives you something to do, as opposed to just doing a character with a silly voice that may or may not land.
Do you have any funny stories about being directed by Patrick Seitz?
I love Patrick Seitz. He is such a dear friend. He's very good at being able to get you into the headspace for the delivery without giving you line readings. And there's nothing wrong with line readings as a last resort. Like if you've tried it 4 or 5 times and it's just not happening, it's like, no, just tell me how you hear it. How do you want me to say it? But Patrick is very good at just kind of going, okay, I want you to do that again, but I also want you to think whiskey and cigarettes. Go. So that makes it a lot of fun. It makes it really a collaborative process, as opposed to having a director who will just give you the line the way they hear it and the way they want it said, and then you're just a parrot. It's still fun, but it's a lot more fun when you work with someone like Patrick, who is so collaborative. Doesn't hurt that he and I have been friends forever too. We literally met in the booth doing Code Geass.
Oh.
I think there were 3 of us. It was me, Patrick, and Keith Silverstein. And we were all doing background voices and, Soldier A, B, and C, and voice on loudspeaker for season 2 of Code Geass. And we have been friends ever since.
Not just for Fire Emblem, but is there still, when you are doing anime, is there still always a reference to try and base it off the Japanese performance?
Oh, almost always.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes the client will want to take it in a different direction, and so you honor that, because if Aniplex is there in the room and they're directing you a certain way, you go that way. But almost always for it's good to listen to, because you get a lot about intention and tone and underlying emotion that might be going on, that if you're just watching the clip go by and trying to match the lip sync, you could maybe not be putting in as subtle of a performance as you otherwise would. So yeah, you listen to the original voice actor and you hear how they were able to do it on their own. Because there's a big difference in performance between when you're laying down a track just on your own with your own timing and your own inflection, to when you are trying to fit words into an existing piece of animation's mouth. It's the second is a lot more technical and a lot less emotionally grounded than the first. The trick is to do that technical part and still have the emotional grounding. Not something I've always been able to do in my career. Better now than I was, back in the Robotech days.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna ask if there is a single character in the Fire Emblem franchise that you have the most affinity with, or they all kind of run together.
I really liked Legion. He was fun to do. He's just such a psychotic. I like Reinhardt. Reinhardt was fun. Reinhardt was a different kind of character than I often get to play. So I liked that he, and I like that he gets, I guess people figure a way to like superpower him, and he becomes, he can get really, really over the top. At least that's what I understand. Anyway. So yeah, I would have to go with those. Thale was fun. Thale was fun. And of course, Yarn, I mean, you don't mess with the bunny. So there's a few that I really like. It's hard to narrow it down to one in particular.
Well, Yarn is interesting since with the vocal placement being higher, that's like one where you wouldn't necessarily expect that it's you when you look it up.
Thank you. That is a wonderful thing to hear. I still really enjoy not sounding like myself.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm now used to hearing my own voice come out of characters, I still like it when someone goes, "That was you." I wouldn't realize that was you. So thank you.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you know, but Yarn's mom, that has like her own playable character too, is played by Jessica George.
I did not know that, but I love Jessica George. She's, boy, talk about talented.
Mm-hmm.
She is so super talented. That's cool. I did not know that.
Well,
and go ahead. Sorry.
He most recently had that holiday outfit that you did like the other month, I think, something like that.
Oh, right. Oh, that we recorded that a while ago,
Mm-hmm.
if I recall. But yeah, it was nice. I hadn't gotten to do Yarn in quite a while. I'm trying to remember if he had popped back up since that initial outing so long ago. I think the last time I did it was only the second time, but it was great. It was great to revisit him. It was nice to see him come back.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was one thing I was going to ask if I had one of his lines typed out, if you could do it in character.
I would be happy to.
Okay.
Sure. That would be my pleasure.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's in the chat.
There we go. Penny really played a mean prank on me earlier. She gifted me a chocolate Easter bunny, but when I took a bite, it was actually soap.
Thank you.
That was fun. That was fun. Thanks for that.
Is there anything that you want to say to the Fire Emblem community?
Oh, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I am so grateful for having had the opportunity for so many years to be so many different characters, most of whom have been so openly embraced by the community. Thank you for loving the game and for playing the game and for being as dedicated to it. I hope that we get to do more of them. And I look forward to meeting as many of you as I possibly can in person at conventions and other events. So thank you. Just want to say thank you.
I know most recently too that you're still playing characters in the Trails series, Trails of Cold Steel.
Right. Right. Oh, what's I feel I feel dumb. What's the new one? There's
Trails into Reverie.
Trails into Reverie. Yes. Yes. That was one that we did. That was a pre-pandemic recording one. And almost everything pre-pandemic has been it's just a blur now. Because things took it took it extra long to it seemed like to come out. And so it just that last one just feels like a lifetime ago. But I'm glad it's still going. I'm glad the franchise is still happening. That's great.
It's the same thing with Attack on Titan as well.
Oh, I so wish that I did not play a character that got squished in season one. Oh, spoilers. Yeah, I got squished real good. But then got to come back for Attack on Titan Junior High, basically, which was great and unexpected. But oh man, what just an amazing, what an amazing anime. What an amazing project to be a part of. I had so much fun working on it with so many other wonderful people, you know, Bryce and Mike McFarlane and Caitlin Glass. Yeah.
Well, another really bigger recent character for you is in Sakugan.
That was a fun show. Again, I'm going to sound like a broken record. Every show was a fun show, but I had such a good time playing that character again, playing a hero and playing a dad, and there's such a great relationship between my character and my daughter. That was a show that I wish had I don't usually say this about a show. I wish it had blown up a little bit more because I really felt like it was a show with tremendous heart. The writing was really good. It was visually stunning, and it was really satisfying. I thought it had a lot of good comedy. It was very heartfelt, and but you can't control how shows are going to land out in the world. But I remember doing the show going, oh wow, this is so good. The writing is so good, and these characters are so meaty. You know, so my takeaway from that was I had a wonderful time. I had a wonderful time doing it.
Was it surprising for you to come back to Bleach?
I honestly, I had to. I was not able to reprise my role for Bleach. Yeah, had some personal matters going on at the time. They asked me, but I wasn't able to do it. I wasn't able to make my schedule work.
Okay.
So, and they were on a deadline and needed to get it done, and I understand that. So everybody out there in Bleach land, be kind. Be kind to the producers and the directors and whoever they got to voice match me, because it wasn't their fault.
Was there anything else that's upcoming or part of you can safely talk about?
Ooh, ooh. It's been a January was a very busy month, and I have been NDA'd like crazy. So unfortunately, I can't. I have some very large video games coming out that I'm very excited about. Um, but I have to leave it at that. And I hate saying that. I hate being that guy. It's like, ooh, I'd love to talk about it, but I can't. It's like, yes, I would love to talk about them, but I actually can't. So I have to leave it at that.
Well, my final question is always asking, what do you want your legacy to be?
Ooh, ooh. Well, when I eventually have grandchildren, I want them to be able to watch um, maybe not all the shows that I've done, but the majority of shows that I've done, and enjoy them, and enjoy my work in them. And I guess that extends outside of family too. I love to know that I'm doing the work that I love, and that it's meaningful for the people who get to watch the projects that I'm involved with. That's the best part. Because that being said, it really is. It's the best job in the world, and it's what I've wanted to do ever since I was 6 years old. And so when I go into the booth, my inner 6 year old is very, very happy, and that that hasn't gone away. And I've been doing this for a long time.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that we got to do this.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience with my schedule. I know I wasn't the easiest person to track down, but thanks. This was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Have a good rest of your day then.
Thank you. You too, Chris. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.